Everybody ready? Good.
Good evening. I'm Blake Dorse, Division Chief with the Oceanside Fire Department. Standing to my right is the Fire Chief, David Parsons, and standing to my left is Deputy Fire Chief Jessamine Specht. We'd like to provide you with some updates regarding the Oceanside Pier fire incident tonight. The exciting news we have for you this evening is that we have declared the fire under control. What that means is that all forward progress on the fire has been stopped, and we are confident that we can move into the overhaul phase, which is just continuing to monitor the conditions, ensuring that there are no hidden fires that are going to flare up, and that's our plan for this evening. All of our jurisdictional partners have been released from the incident. We're going to keep one engine company on scene tonight, overnight, as a fire watch. If conditions should change, they have the ability to bring in additional resources. We're going to reevaluate the situation early in the morning tomorrow to determine our resource needs for the day, but we are anticipating much less of an impact today as far as our firefighting workforce is concerned. Our Emergency Operations Center for the city will remain open throughout the weekend so that we can ensure that all of our civic leaders are up to date on the latest information and we can make decisions as needed as conditions change. On Wednesday next week, there's going to be an emergency city council meeting at 3:00 p.m. The purpose of that is to ratify the proclamation for a local emergency. The investigation as to the cause and origin of the fire is still underway. We have no additional information to share with you this evening regarding the cause of the fire. We do have a beach closure that's supposed to remain in effect throughout the weekend. We will be reevaluating that tomorrow morning with the San Diego County Department of Environmental Health, but we are anticipating that it could go through the weekend. The closure is from Tyson Street to Surfrider Street. We would like to keep all people out of the water in those areas. We would also like to inform the public that there is some debris washing up on shore. We have been doing cleanup efforts throughout the day to get that material out of the way, but as it continues to wash up, we want to encourage the public to not remove any debris as it could be hazardous and dangerous to their health and well-being. There is one rumor floating around out there, and we've addressed it already, but I'll say it again, is that the standpipe system on the pier that was recently installed was not used. That's not true. It was used. It was implemented. The question arose because you saw a lot of hose laying out on the pier as well. The reason for that is we wanted to have as much water on that large fire that you saw as possible. So the way that we do that is to put additional hose in place. As far as the weekend is concerned, like I said, we're not expecting conditions to be too bad. Our firefighting resources should remain small unless anything changes, and for that reason, we're not going to be providing any press conferences over the weekend, but our next press conference will be on Monday at 3 p.m. in this location here. Please advise all citizens to monitor the city websites for any updates over the weekend. And other than that, I'm open to any questions.
So drill down on the environmental hazard. Talk about an environmental hazard. I've seen a lot of people picking up things. So what exactly is it that the chemicals that are the concern, and what should they do? Should they encounter them, wash their hands or anything like that?
We would encourage anybody that encounters them to leave them in place. Do not touch them. Our cleanup will continue. As you can imagine, wood, when it gets burned, has charring. Just like a campfire, anything that you touch out of a campfire with charring could be hazardous to your health. Of course, in addition to that, any nails or splinters from the wood or the material, any metal that were to wash up on shore, obviously could cause minor cuts and scrapes and bruises that could become infected. So that's why we're advising all people to stay away from the material.
It's taken about 24 hours to completely put out this fire. On the surface, somebody might say, well, you have an endless supply of water. Why was this fire so stubborn?
The fire was so stubborn because of the configuration of the building at the end of the pier. As such, we weren't able to get to the seat of the fire. We had to take great efforts with our personnel to remove material little by little. And as we were doing that, we were maintaining safety of our operational personnel at all times. So if you could imagine the collapse potential involved, we would have to remove some debris, open the building up a little bit, step back, reevaluate, make sure that everything was safe. While that was occurring, we were utilizing the fire boats with the large amounts of water that you mentioned to douse the fire. Then we would come in, remove additional debris, allow additional water to be placed onto the fire, and so on and so forth. So that went on throughout the day, and that's, to answer your question, what took this extent of time. Also, obviously, it was a very large fire, so you could imagine how long it would take.
Sorry. Chief Parsons, can I clarify something for us?
Sure.
This morning you had mentioned, it sounded like you wanted to clarify the fact that the old Ruby's Diner, while closed, is not a dilapidated structure or anything like that. But in the process of saying that, you mentioned, I thought that the other restaurant, the fish shop, was using that kitchen to cook. Was that happening simultaneously at the time of the fire? Do we know that, or did they just use it to cook sometimes?
I don't know the activity of the kitchen facilities at the moment of the fire, but they had a proper certificate of occupancy issued by the city to use the kitchen in the old Ruby's restaurant building to do some cooking and supporting of the brine box kiosk. So all of it was operating under proper issued permits. Everything was good in that respect. I don't know the actual activity level of the kitchen at that moment.
Got it. If I can indulge you another minute. So we spoke with the brine box operator. She indicated that her chef, who was there at the time of the fire, saw smoke coming out from underneath the pier, actually underneath the old Ruby's Diner at the time. I don't know if that says anything, but that, based on the fact that they would use that kitchen to cook, does that lead you to believe that the point of origin is there?
So we have an area of origin, and that's the building. The investigation's ongoing right now. We actually just had a 2-hour conversation on the investigation process. We're working with ATF, if you're not aware, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, with our fire investigation team. That's all we're going to provide right now because there's still a lot of work to do there. The area of origin is in the Ruby's area, or the pier area with the Ruby's nearby. So there's still more to come on that, and we'll release that as we get it.
Do you think you'll have an answer within 12 to 24 hours? That was said this morning, I'm just verifying.
Definitely no answer within 12 to 24 hours. This is a multi-day, potentially multi-week process to get the report written, and we're not going to release any information until that report's completed.
Did I misunderstand the 12 to 24 hours?
Yeah, you guys said that earlier today.
That may have been a misstatement then.
Understood.
Yeah, that's
Thank you.
Correct. That will not happen. Sorry if that was provided.
Any chiefs can jump in on this one. What's the difference between when you see something like a total loss up in Santa Barbara versus saving 95% of the Oceanside Pier so far? What was the big shift in sort of the execution of the protection?
Yeah, I'd like Deputy Chief Speck to address that.
Sure, I'll address that. I think the big thing that was working in our favor is we made a pretty early call to trench the pier, and essentially we cut about a 5-foot gap from the edge of the pier so it wouldn't continue towards the shore, burning the rest of the pier. That was one thing that I would say, good decision making on our part. We had a good call tactically. The other thing is we had a lot of mutual aid resources. We had fireboats from San Diego, we had our own fireboat, we had the Coast Guard yesterday, we had 2 air tankers doing water drops on top of it, one provided by SDG&E, one from the county. So those are factors that were going in our favor to help us with that in comparison to Santa Barbara.
Was trenching a novel move? Has that been used before? Is this really the first time it's been tried?
It's the first time, to my knowledge, that the Oceanside Pier has been trenched. Trenching is a fairly common tactic, like in commercial fires. You have one side of a commercial fire burning, and we trench the roof to stop it from spreading across the entire building to save one half of the building. So the same concept applied to the pier.
I'm going to add to that. We don't practice, you can't practice for a pier fire, right? There's no simulator for that. So we have a very highly trained professional workforce who know how to do techniques for commercial buildings, residential buildings, vegetation fires, and we use critical thinking to apply those skills and techniques to a novel situation to solve the problem. So I'm going to humbly say that a high level of training and professionalism is what created the opportunity to save up to 90% of this pier.
Is the building considered a total loss?
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned training, and we spoke to the Port of San Diego, and they mentioned that Oceanside lifeguards had participated the day before in an emergency scenario. Did that training from the day before play any role in the response yesterday?
That's the hornblower who did it.
I can't say whether it had a direct translation, but what I can tell you was very beneficial is they had those relationships built from working with San Diego Harbor personnel yesterday. But speaking of training, since we're on the topic, the battalion chief, who was the first incident commander, 2 days prior had participated in an extended attack wildland drill where they throw 12 hours worth of units and resources for a simulated wildland drill. And he commented afterwards, the stress of going through a drill like that helped him today, or helped him yesterday as he ran the incident with multiple resources coming his way. He had just experienced something very similar. So training is a big part of what we do to prepare for something like this.
I'm sorry, I came in a little bit late, apologies. Is the firefighting, the attack is done, fire is out, the smoldering is out?
The firefighting, active firefighting is out right now. I definitively will say the smoldering is not out, and just for the public's knowledge, you probably will see smoldering and little flare-ups, and likely for the next several days. Like was mentioned earlier, we do have a fire engine here. We'll be staffed here all night long. We'll evaluate that tomorrow morning, whether we'll continue to have a fire engine staged here every day. But yes, you can expect some smoldering for the next foreseeable future.
Given that, what is the next stage and when does that start?
The next stage of this would be the recovery stage for us, and so obviously we have a lot of repair work to do here. We have a lot of needs that we need to assess and evaluate how we're going to mitigate those. So that's part of the Emergency Operations Center activation, and why we put it into effect is to be able to look at all of the needs from all the city departments and help so that we can mitigate those going into the future and make sure that we can restore the pier to its original glory.
What sorts of things are you talking about when you say mitigate? Are you talking about the building collapsing? What are you talking about?
Well, obviously the pier has been damaged, the structure on the pier has been damaged, so in order to repair that, we first have to remove all of the debris. That's going to be a difficult process, as you can imagine, because it's out over the water. And then once that starts, we're going to have to look at how to reconstruct and what that looks like.
And Chief, are the pillars underneath Ruby's, are those damaged as well? Will they need to be replaced, or is it really just the surface of the pier?
That's something that as we remove the debris, we'll look at further, and the city engineering department will assist us with that. But I will say that those pilings, while they are charred on the exterior, they are very stable right now. They go, I believe, 30 or 40 feet down into the ground underneath the seabed. So they're very stable, the pylons.
Potentially salvageable?
Potentially.
Amen. Thank you, guys. There's no official cause.
It's still under investigation at this time.